everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Sam Fury Show. Today, we're discussing another episode of the Huberman Lab, entitled Optimal Protocols for Studying and Learning.
Ready to unlock some serious learning superpowers?
Let's do it.
All right, so today we're diving deep into the world of better learning, all of us, right? And we've got this awesome Huberman Lab episode as our guide, Mastering Learning Techniques.
Yeah, it's a gold mine. One of the things that really struck me about the episode was just how much emphasis is put on, the process of learning.
Totally.
Not just, sitting there and trying to cram information in, but actually understanding how our brains, take it all in.
It's like we're trying to crack the code.
Exactly. How we encode it, how we store it, how we pull it back out when we need it. It's all connected.
And the best part is, once you understand these connections, you can actually start to optimize them. You can learn more effectively, faster, and remember it longer.
Absolutely. It's like having a superpower.
Exactly. So where do we even start with all of this? There are so many different techniques and strategies out there. What's the first step on this journey to becoming a learning machine?
Well, believe it or not, one of the most powerful and often overlooked ingredients for better learning happens when we're not actively learning.
Wait, are you talking about sleep?
You got it.
Because I'm all for a good night's sleep.
It's crucial, especially REM sleep.
Yeah.
You see, during REM sleep, our brains are hard at work, consolidating all that information we've taken in during the day.
So it's like hitting save on all that hard work.
Exactly. If we don't get enough sleep or enough of the right kind of sleep, it's like we're constantly inputting data, but never hitting save.
So that all-nighter cramming session before a big test, maybe not the best strategy.
Probably not. You'd be better off getting a good night's sleep or even just taking a power nap beforehand. Research shows even a short nap can significantly boost recall.
See, now I'm all about optimizing my sleep schedule. But what about stress? We all experience it, but how does stress actually affect our ability to learn?
That's a great question. When we're stressed, our bodies release a flood of hormones like cortisol. And these hormones can actually interfere with the learning process. It's like our brains go into survival mode.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. And in that state, we're not exactly primed for absorbing new information. Our working memory capacity decreases. We struggle to focus.
It's like trying to learn a new language while running from a bear. Not exactly ideal.
Right. But here's the thing. There are things we can do to manage stress and create a more learning-conducive environment for ourselves. The Huberman Lab episode talks a lot about the power of things like breathing exercises, mindfulness, even just taking a few minutes to step away from whatever is stressing us out and reset.
Those little mental breaks, I can see that. So we've covered sleep, we've talked about stress. Now let's get into some of those more active learning strategies. One that I know we both found super interesting was this idea of active recall.
Active recall is where the magic happens.
Tell us more.
It's basically forcing your brain to retrieve information without just passively looking at it again. So instead of just rereading your notes over and over, you're actually testing yourself, trying to pull that information from memory.
So things like flashcards, or even just trying to explain the concept to someone else?
Exactly. The more you activate those neural pathways, the stronger the connections become, and the easier it is to recall that information later. It's like working a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Love that analogy. And then there's spaced repetition, which seems kind of like a superpower in itself. Can you break down how that works and why it's so effective?
Sure. Spaced repetition plays on this really cool quirk of our memory. We tend to forget things at predictable intervals. So the idea is to review information just as we're about to forget it.
It's like setting little reminders for your brain.
Yes. So let's say you learn something new today. You review it tomorrow, then again a few days later, then a week later, and so on. Each time you space out the repetition, it forces your brain to work a little harder to retrieve the information, which actually makes the memory stronger.
It's like building a stronger foundation for that information to sit on. And what about interleaving? I've heard that term thrown around a lot in learning circles. How does that fit into the picture?
Interleaving is like cross-training for your brain. Instead of just focusing on one subject or skill for hours on end, you mix it up. You might spend some time studying history, then switch to math, then maybe do a bit of language learning.
Keep your brain on its toes.
Exactly. It keeps things interesting, but more importantly, it actually helps you learn and retain information better. Our brains thrive on novelty and making connections between different concepts.
Makes sense. Now we can't talk about optimizing learning without talking about the environment. I know for me, I need a certain kind of space to really focus and get in the zone. What are your thoughts on that?
The environment is huge. We need to create a space that is conducive to learning. It's about minimizing distractions and maximizing focus.
So no scrolling through social media while studying.
Maybe not. Think about what helps you focus. Is it natural light, a certain scent, maybe some calming music in the background? Figure out what works for you and create that space.
It's like setting the stage for a productive study session. Love it. Okay, last but not least, we have to talk about multimodal learning, which basically means using all the tools in our learning toolkit, right?
Absolutely. We all learn differently. Some of us are visual learners, others are auditory learners, some are kinesthetic learners. Multimodal learning is about incorporating different senses and learning styles into the mix.
So instead of just reading a textbook, we could try mind mapping the key concepts, listening to a podcast on the topic, maybe even watching a documentary.
Exactly. You could even act out a historical event or build a model to understand a scientific concept.
Get those creative juices flowing.
It's all about finding what works best for you and keeping your brain engaged.
I love that. And there you have it. This deep dive has been a whirlwind of learning awesomeness. We've covered everything from sleep and stress management to active recall, spaced repetition, interleaving, even creating the perfect learning environment and embracing multimodal learning. If you want to learn more effectively and really unlock your brain's full potential, all of this information is incredibly valuable.
It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about experimenting, figuring out what works best for you, and then implementing those strategies consistently. Your brain will thank you for it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, with that in mind, what's one thing you're going to implement today to boost your learning game?
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Sam Fury Show. If you found this episode useful, let me know with a like, follow, and share. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to visit samfury.com and join my free newsletter. As a subscriber, you'll receive access to all my original book summaries, which you can download as PDFs, no more than one email a week containing a roundup of my latest posts and exclusive content which is only for my mailing list. It's completely free to join at samfury.com.